Before we get started, I just want to be clear, I'm not that important that I get to go Concorde. There was a special deal and somehow we managed to wangle ourselves on it. So I spent the whole time trying to look like I fitted in, and this was just normal day-to-day activity for me. So, given what Simon said, perhaps I should retitle it, Am I in the Trough of Disillusionment? I think you're probably going to guess that my answer is no, I'm not. What I'm going to take you through is briefly Barclays, particularly Barclays Group debit card experience of contactless to date. And before we get into the presentation slides, which mercifully there are only 10, I just want to do a little bit of research of my own. So how many of you definitely have a contactless card in your wallet? Oh, good. That's a good start. How many of you have used it contactlessly? How many of you was the very first experience of contactless a positive one? Interesting, right? So we'll come back to that. So, but anyway, so I've been in Barclays forever, or it feels like forever, and I was trying to think on the way down on the train. I think the first chip project I started on was 1996. So we've been doing or developing or delivering EMV chip since 1996. But what we have done is we took a decision to roll contactless technology to our entire debit card base on natural expiry of cards in March 2009. Okay. So as I stand in front of you today, we are through the entire first 3-year reissue cycle. So I have 8.5 million customers with contactless enabled cards in their wallets today. Slightly bigger numbers than Simon's on the total for the industry. Current number we understand is 25 million cards in the industry and around 100,000 enabled contactless terminals. So how are we doing? Volume numbers are doubling every 6 months. And delighted to say we are ahead of plan for 2012 in terms of transaction volume. Growth in May was 21% up on total volume in April, to give you a scale. So the absolute numbers are unfortunately a bit commercially sensitive, but we are particularly pleased with progress in volume growth this year. Okay. In terms of the customers, understandably, the number of customers adopting that technology, actually getting it out, using it for the first time, and then using it again, is roughly, the graph's almost identical to the volume. But what we have is we have a core base measured in the hundreds of thousands that now use contactless every month, and then we've got occasional users. So you've got your hardcore of people that got this, understand it, really like it, use it every single day, and then you've got the occasional use customers when they come across the technology. Now just go back. If you can spot it, in May 11, there's a big spike, big jump in May to June, and that's McDonald's turning on. And we'll come back to what that can do and what a retailer can do for you in terms of volume later on. So just to hammer that message home, very pleased for performance this year. Transaction volume doubling every 6 months, 21% increase last month on the month before. So, convenience food dominates for now because that's where a lot of our current retailers are, but all the sectors where we've seen contactless go in are growing. Okay. We'll probably come on to it a little bit later, maybe not, because I'll no doubt get a bit random and move across the place to get interested. M6 Toll, really interesting. Within a week of turning on, M6 Toll was in our top 10 individual retailer outlets. So if we think about what contactless is, it's quick and it's easy and it's secure. And as soon as you find the right combination of those things with a retailer implementation and you tell customers where it is and how to use it, then you get a result. So we've been looking at the type of customer that uses contactless, okay? And what we've got on screen here is a split of around 2 years, 2010, roughly this time 2010, this time now. And how is the adoption changing? Well, some of this is sort of self-evident if you think about it. So the start of contactless terminal rollout was predominantly London-based, London-centric. Unsurprisingly, 43% living in London 2010. Now that a number of major retailers are rolling contactless broader than the M25 and indeed going to full rollout across their entire network, 27% of transaction volumes in London, the rest is outside. So the first thing we need to do is dispel this myth that it is a London-only phenomenon, okay? Income is reducing, and we didn't make any particular choice. We did pure card expiry. We didn't do by particular product group or particular income band. We just broadly pushed it across all wheels. One that caught me out, average age is higher, not lower. I assumed it would be lower, not quite sure about that. Online banking active, slightly changed. Interesting, number one contactless merchant. 2010 it was Pret, and we're very pleased with the progress and the brave step that Pret made to go full rollout very early. In 2012, our biggest single individual merchant for volume on my customers is McDonald's. When McDonald's switched on, we did over 1,000 transactions the first day, the very first day. They are a significant volume player for us already, and each week that volume grows. And the average transaction value is gradually rising. £4.53 2 years ago, £5.80 last month. And basically usage is spread across the mainstream of our card portfolio as we issue it to all customers, all regions, all demographics. These are just, so I'm very parochial, these are just my debit numbers, okay? Therefore, I'm much more confident that I'm not going to say something I shouldn't. So these are just Barclays UK debit card contactless numbers. There's been, well, you could hardly miss the fact that we're going to have an Olympics in a few weeks' time. It does represent an absolutely unique one-off opportunity to showcase contactless, not just for UK customers, but all visitors to the UK. And there are a number of Visa colleagues in the room. I just want to applaud them on an amazing job they are doing to, as a senior or first sponsor partner with Visa of the Olympics on contactless. 2,000 contactless terminals in the Olympic Park in Stratford alone, 1,000 terminals across other UK venues, and a whole host of contactless vending terminals as well. They've sort of, Visa have basically said, we're going to make this a contactless games. We're already seeing very strong volume growth as it is. I confidently predict that the aftermath of the Olympics to be a big kicker for further volume growth for us. particularly as many more people come into contact with it, excuse the pun, but also get to experience it for the first time, get to see other people using it for the first time. Generating greater merchant take-up. I've already talked briefly about impact of M6 toll and how we get the solution right. The volume comes almost instantly. Great news from Co-op supermarkets. They're going to roll across there. Great news from the post office, particularly interested in that. That's 11,500 branches and 30,000 individual contactless points of sale. I understand they're on course for that completion by the end of October this year. WH Smith's in all of their travel sites, and a whole host of successful trials across Tesco, Waitrose, Boots, etc. I have a little story about Boots in Euston, and I'll share that with you in a minute, as I'm always in Euston Station. And then there's all of those pre-2012 rollouts that are driving volume for us now, day in, day out. And unusually for an issuer in a competitive industry, I am delighted with other issuers' announcements around trials or full rollouts. What we need is to continue to build the scale so we can persuade those retailers still trying to decide that it's worth doing, and also in terms of giving them more card issuer scale, but also vice versa, those big merchants coming on board to persuade the few doubters out there, my colleagues in other issuing banks with my sort of role, to make that leap. So there is plenty of scale coming on in the next 6 to 12 months on the retail side that will help drive further volume growth for me. So that's why I'm really excited about that, and can confirm I am not in whatever it was of disillusionment, sorry. What was the... But no, seriously, it's such an exciting time for this. I think we are really absolutely at that tipping point with scale. And as I say, the growth numbers are really encouraging for us. But we can't just leave it at that, sit back, wait for everyone to catch up. And so we are going to continue to innovate. You'll hear a lot more from two colleagues from Barclays tomorrow, Phil Sauter on electronic banking, but also Tom Gregory on all of our digital payment initiatives. But you may or may not have seen the launch of a pay tag that colleagues at Barclays launched last month. This is, as you can work out, it is a bridging technology. You don't embed it in the mobile, you just stick it to it. But it's another form factor that customers seem to have, if you like, caught their imagination so far. And we're also already, I've seen one colleague who's got it stuck to his Audi key fob. I think he just likes the fact he can get out his Audi key fob, but nonetheless, it is a talking point when you go into a retailer. So, and it's just, all of the data suggests, you've seen the stats about, the quotes about customers are more likely to want to take their mobile phone and their wallet with them when they go out. Which one are they more likely to leave behind? They're more likely to want their mobile phone. So again, its beauty is its simplicity. Feedback, and just talking in the break, the only thing we haven't worked out yet is that BlackBerry have reissued their phone with pimples on the back. It doesn't stick too well to them. But what can you do? So I still have one of the prototypes stuck on the back of my BlackBerry, hidden underneath its wallet. I went into Boots in Euston last week to have a sneaky additional pack of sandwiches, as well as the ones that already had lunchtime before I got on the train. And the guy behind the counter was amazed. He said, "Did you just play with your BlackBerry?" Now, so I thought I'd better be honest. So I said, "Well, sort of." But I showed him the tag. He said, "That's great. How can I get one of these?" And you can get conversations start in the queue behind you as well. Now, obviously, I'm going to encourage that conversation, and I'm slightly more outgoing than most people. But nonetheless, it's just, it's just an indication of what this can do. Also, from June the 1st, the contactless limit went up from £15 to £20. Both Visa and MasterCard agreed with that. So it's rolled for the industry. We're tracking, as you might expect, volume between 15 and 20 to see if anyone's confident enough to go that high. We haven't seen an awful lot so far. We've done about 300 transactions this week between 15 and 20, just as people sort of get the idea that, and indeed retailers promote the fact that you can go over 15 to 20. But that brings another group of transactions into play. If any of you have got a young, well, my family's not that young, but if you've got a family, you can soon spend in any sort of fast retail food outlet beyond 15, as I have found out on a number of occasions. So that's just another way, and an interesting way, but on one level, a simple way of encouraging the adoption further, but also getting the customer ready in his own mind that it's okay to transact on his mobile. And just trying to wrap that all together, because time is against me. How can the industry work better to embed contactless technology? Well, our own show of hands at the start gives us one leading indicator. The biggest single driver to my customers getting the card out again and again and again to contactless is a first positive experience. Just in life generally with any particular activity, but it's just as true with contactless. So you need a very strong terminal implementation that's well delivered. Co-op, particularly good at that. The staff training has to be spot on, and McDonald's staff training is market leading for contactless. They really are superb. I'm obviously going to ask all of my banking colleagues in the room to roll out more cards and not sit and wait, but just go for it. Because we had three thinkers on the stage before me, and I'm afraid I'm just a doer. So let's just do it. And then you've got to continually re-educate the customer. So continual remessaging, we're just doing new digital on our own online banking sites, statement messaging. Something that's quite interesting, we should be able to now tell a customer on their statement that they could have done that transaction contactlessly in that store. So just highlight that you could have paid for that with contactless technology if you didn't. So constantly just reassuring with that message. Okay. So I think the fundamentals of getting contactless right in the UK are relatively simple. Ensuring the experience is a good one and a positive one, and they'll come back again and it's as smooth as possible. And that you communicate and re-communicate to as many customers as you can on a regular basis. But the scene is set for a dramatic expansion, and there is a huge amount of volume to go at that customers actually like this experience and want more of it. So my contention is, yes, we are on the rise. We're extremely pleased with progress this year, and there is more to come, with a particular kicker on the aftermath of the Olympics. That's it. Thank you very much.